Hey retro gaming fans, today I wanted to talk about my top 10 favorite horror themed retro games. And I'm talking real retro. The newest games on this list would be on like the Genesis or the Super NES, nothing newer than that, okay? Maybe next year I'll do something for like the mid-retro era, like the PS1 all the way up to like the PS2. But for right now, we're sticking with the games that were retro when I became an adult. And that is the NES, the Master System, the Super NES, and the Genesis. These are the consoles I grew up playing as a kid, and these are the ones I'm going to be focusing on. If you enjoy retro gaming content like reviews and top 10s, please remember to like, subscribe, and turn notifications to all so you don't miss the next video. I'm trying to get to 300 subscribers by the end of the year, and I think we can do it with your help. Also, if you're on mobile and you enjoy these videos, please remember to hype the videos. It helps out so much. Now let's begin. Alright, so I couldn't just limit this to like individual games for some of these. So some of these are just the series, basically, and I want to start off by talking about the Maniac Mansion games. The original Maniac Mansion, I'm pretty sure I actually first played on my auntie's Commodore 64. This was a game that was on, you could play it on DOS, I believe, and it was eventually ported to the NES, although it might be a little bit annoying to play on the NES, because I'm not too sure how well the controls would work. It is a point-and-click adventure game, so you'd constantly have to be like selecting use or inventory and sorting through your inventory to grab items and interact with the world around you. But the story, the vibe of Maniac Mansion was just incredible back in the day. I remember being blown away by how many characters there were and how each character has their own specific kind of traits to them. So nobody's just a cookie cutter of another character. There are different methods you need to progress through the game based on the characters you choose, which is pretty dang cool. And then of course there's the sequel, Maniac Mansion 2 Day of the Tentacle. The animation in this game really blew my mind back when it first came out. I actually had this game on DOS. This was one of the few games that I legitimately bought a store copy of on DOS. I think it came on like 4 floppy disks. I never really got very far in these games. There's a reason I don't play like survival horror games, and it's because I'm terrible at puzzles. I love the odd point and click adventure game like these games, obviously. There's also the Monkey Island games, which we'll get to later in this video. But yeah, the Maniac Mansion games were just so much fun. They're almost like a teen horror writing wise. There was a lot of like goofiness to the story, but there was a lot of messed up stuff going on too. There's a part where you can like microwave a hamster and it's super messed up, but that's kind of the sense of humor that this game has. There's a part where you have to use fake vomit that falls off of the ceiling in Maniac Mansion 2. You have to get somebody to blare their music upstairs so that the fake vomit falls off the ceiling and you can pick that up and use that to solve the puzzle. But yeah, super cool games, super innovative, especially when they first came out. They're very ahead of their time, and yeah, I needed to mention them on here at number 10. Next up is kind of a weird one to put on here, but Adventures in the Magic Kingdom on the NES. So this game is about going to Disneyland and going to all the different rides. The rides are basically themed levels, and you have to get all the keys so you can get access to the main castle. Obviously, this game isn't a horror game, but there are a lot of horror-themed stages. My favorite being the Haunted Mansion. There's also the Pirates of the... I'm assuming it's Pirates of the Caribbean. But there's a pirate level that's also really fun. And they just have that kind of like spooky vibe to them, especially the Haunted Mansion. Definitely my favorite place in this game, and one of my favorite games to just fire up and do a quick playthrough of. So not like the most horror of horror games, but it had some really good horror levels that were really fun and really well made. So that's why I wanted to mention Adventures in the Magic Kingdom on the NES. Number 8 is the Ghosts and Goblins series. I actually have been playing through these games this year for my Spooktober streams on the main channel. If you haven't checked out the main channel, it's mostly JRPG content, but I also stream from there as well. It's youtube.com/@Dookie03. You could also catch me live on Twitch at twitch.tv/Dookie03 as well. But anyways, I've been playing through the Ghosts and Goblin games. Funnily enough, the first Ghosts and Goblin games I ever played was Gargoyles Quest 2 on the NES. I had no idea it was even connected to the Ghosts and Goblins game when I first played it as a kid. All I knew is it kind of looked like Dragon Warrior because you had like an overworld, and then the levels were kind of like action platformer stages. Incredibly difficult game. Not sure if I'd even recommend it, but I remember playing the first Ghosts and Goblins game on the NES, and despite its insane difficulty, it was a very fun game. I really did enjoy it as a kid, but it wasn't until the Genesis that I kind of fell in love with the series. Ghouls and Ghosts on the Genesis is probably my favorite entry in this entire franchise. It's got some tight platforming. It really almost feels more like a run and gun game than some of the other ones do, especially if you get the knife, because you can just rapid fire that bad boy. You also get like a shield that like frisbees along the ground, taking things out, doing a lot more damage. There's a variety of different weapons. The stages are crazy. It's highly difficult, but very fun. Very good horror vibes. Lots of like zombies and monsters and devils and stuff attacking you, and I just really enjoy this series despite how insanely difficult it is. My least favorite game in the series is probably the most played one, which is Super Ghouls and Ghosts on the Super NES. That game, I just hate how the jumping works. It drives me absolutely crazy. I do not like that one, but all the other ones are pretty good. I played the Master System one for the first time this year, and it has a lot of like armor upgrades and easier ways to upgrade, but there's so much slowdown. Either way, great series, a lot of innovation in some of the early games with the armor upgrades and the different weapon varieties and all that, and I just love the monster and stage designs in these games. They are so well done. At number 7 is Master of Darkness on the Sega Master System. So this is basically the Master System's answer to Castlevania. You go through all the stages. It's a ton of like great action platforming. You can get a plethora of different weapons. You can even get a gun and shoot the monsters that way. I just really enjoy this game. If you're wanting a new experience that you've maybe never played before and you're a huge classic Castlevania fan, be sure to check out Master of Darkness on the Sega Master System. You just can't go wrong with this game. It's really well done, and that's why I had to put it here at number 7. Now we're getting to some of my favorite games of all time, let alone just horror-themed games. Starting with number 6, Monster in My Pocket on the NES. This is another one that's kind of a hidden gem on the NES. I remember the game actually came with like little action figures of some of the monsters, kind of like those Ultimate Muscle ones used to back in the day. You play as either miniature Dracula or miniature Frankenstein's monster. You have to kind of escape somebody's house, and you go into like the refrigerator, and you go to a construction site. I think the final showdown is underneath a baseball diamond, but the concept is similar to that of the Chip 'n Dale Rescue Ranger games, where you're like these miniature monsters going through these gigantic everyday locations, like a house, like a construction site. You even get flushed down into the sewer system, and the boss fight there was really cool. There's a lot of like really good ideas that they utilize in this game to make the levels and the gameplay feel fresh. You have kind of like a standard attack. It's fairly short range. I played this game a million times though, so I can kind of cheese my way through. The boss fights are actually really good, and once you get the patterns down, they aren't very difficult, but the first couple times you face off against them, they are nearly impossible. You face off against like the abominable snowman in the refrigerator, in the porch of the house or something like that. I believe you fight Jack the Ripper, and yeah, there's just a ton of classic monsters in the game. They're all miniature, of course, and you and a buddy can set off on this journey to face off against this warlock dude. Absolutely fantastic co-op action platformer. Can't recommend it enough. Check out Monster in My Pocket on the NES if you haven't yet. Next up is another favorite of mine, Zombies Ate My Neighbors. I grew up playing the Genesis version. Not a lot of differences between the Genesis and the Super NES version for this one, so pick up either one, whatever console you got, pick it up and give it a go. This is another fantastic co-op game. So this game is based on a bunch of zombies are in your neighborhood, and you have to rescue all your neighbors, and then you go on to the next stage. You defeat all the zombies. You don't have to defeat all the zombies, but you clear out enough zombies to rescue all your neighbors. There's like trampolines, there's swimming pools, there's shopping malls, there's giant ant hills, there's sandworms, there's a giant baby in one of the stages. You can fight a boss that's a giant baby. There's werewolves. It's just a super good game. It's very difficult because it's very long. There are passwords, but it's one of those games where if you don't beat it in one run, when you load the password, you don't get any of your items, so you're pretty much boned. I highly recommend playing this one with a friend, just like Monster in My Pocket, but this one more so because you really are going to need teamwork to get to the end in this one. I still remember the day I carried my best friend Fates all the way to the end of the game because he died so early on in the game. It definitely did not happen the other way around. Check out Zombies Ate My Neighbors on the Super NES and Sega Genesis. Next up is the Monkey Island series. I know there's like a lot of Monkey Island games. The series is kind of still going on today, really, but the ones that I really loved were 1 and 2. back on PC, and of course the main way I ended up playing the first one anyways was on the Sega CD. I've been told the Sega CD is the worst version of the game, but I have nostalgia for it because that is the one I grew up playing. You can get them on GOG.com, Good Old Games. They have a ton of classic point-and-click adventure games, and the Monkey Island games are some of, if not the best. The second, LeChuck's Revenge, is so damn good. Probably my favorite point-and-click adventure game of all time. Absolutely love those games. They've got a great sense of humor, made by the same guys that did the Maniac Mansion games, if I remember correctly. It is Lucasfilm Games or LucasArts, whatever you want to call them. They just did a fantastic job of those games. All the characters are so well done. The townspeople, I just love interacting with the community and the islands themselves. It's just, I feel at home when I'm in the world of the Monkey Island games, and I absolutely love their kookiness. It honestly feels like you're playing a Scooby-Doo movie or episode when you play the Monkey Island games. They just kind of have that vibe to them. So if you're a big fan of Scooby-Doo and you don't mind point-and-click adventures, or in fact, you love point-and-click adventures, check out The Secret of Monkey Island and its sequel, LeChuck's Revenge, either on DOSBox, GOG.com, or if you can get them on the Sega CD. Now hear me out, some of you guys are gonna say that this one's a cop-out. I'm talking about the Ninja Gaiden series on the NES, alright? Yeah, you'll say, this isn't a horror game, these aren't horror games. Look, man, have you ever played the Ninja Gaiden games on the NES? These games are absolutely horrifying. Not only are they insanely difficult, you're constantly going up against these hideous demons. As you get further into the stages get creepier and creepier. These are freaking horror-themed retro games, damn it. My favorite of the bunch is actually Ninja Gaiden on the Master System. Right behind it would be Ninja Gaiden 2 on the NES, and then, of course, Ninja Gaiden 1, and trailing behind those guys would be Ninja Gaiden 3. Ninja Gaiden 3 suffered from the whole, like, Japan rental thing, where they found out everybody was renting games over here, so they just made the North American releases that much more difficult. It's, I think, the only game in the series that doesn't have infinite continues, making it freaking impossible to play. If you're gonna play the third one, get a hacked version of like the Japanese ROM, a translated Japanese ROM, so you can play the way it was meant to be played. But yeah, you're either facing off against Jockio, this epic demon that killed your father and is trying to take over the world, or you're trying to face off against Ashtar, who's this badass shredder-looking demon dude. And then, of course, you got the Master System game where you travel to the United States and you face off against a bunch of kooky bosses in that one as well. I would say Ninja Gaiden on the Master System isn't as horror-themed as the NES ones. As you get closer to the end of the game, it definitely gets a lot more like demonic and scary and stuff like that. But the NES trilogy, you can't go wrong with those games. Don't be afraid to use save states to beat them. They are incredibly difficult, especially the first one. When you get to the final boss, you have to go all the way back like a full level and a half, basically. But if you beat one of the forms of the final boss, he stays dead. So push on, you can get through it. But I recommend save states, at least for the original Ninja Gaiden. And then, of course, a patched version of Ninja Gaiden 3 on the NES. But yeah, check out the Ninja Gaiden trilogy if you haven't. They're absolutely phenomenal action platformers. Some of the best on the entire NES. Second from the top here, we've got Sweet Home, technically on the Famicom. This game was never officially released outside of Japan. It is based on a movie called Sweet Home, and this is the game that Resident Evil was actually based off of. So this was essentially the first ever survival horror game, but it also doubled as a JRPG, where, as you can't tell, I am a huge fan of. If you are a huge fan of JRPGs, be sure to check out my main channel, Dookie03, right here on YouTube. I do a lot of Dragon Quest videos, top 10 videos, stuff like that. Sweet Home is about a camera crew that go into this haunted mansion and uncover the truth behind what happened there. And let me tell you, there's some creepy crap going on in this place. You've got to manage your resources because you can control each character individually, and you can kind of party those characters up or split them off. It's really, really intuitive and way ahead of its time. This is one game I would love to see like a proper remake of, just to help with like the inventory management, make it a little bit more manageable, because there were parts in this game where if you took the wrong team to the wrong area, you had to do like a lot of backtracking and swapping characters out. But you could also build your characters so that they're strong enough to like stand on their own and split into like 3 or 4 different parties with different groups. The cinematics in this game were really, really good, especially on the NES. There were like little cutscenes where like lightning would smash through a window and little things that would like hint at what your next objective should be, or opening up like secret areas. This was a really, really good game with a really, really good story. If you like JRPGs or survival horror games, I highly, highly recommend checking out Sweet Home. There are 2 different translations of this game. Either one is perfectly fine. They're really good games. The combat is great if you like turn-based combat. Each character has their own perks and abilities. If you lose a character, they are permanently dead, so you definitely need to stock up on extra items, because some of the abilities that those characters had can be done if you have the correct items to do so. Some of those items will be hidden in the home as well, so that if you lose that character, you can still manage to get through the game itself. But it's definitely a lot more difficult if you start losing characters. Anyways, yeah, check out Sweet Home on the Famicom. Last but not least, you knew it had to be on here, but you didn't know where. Of course, I'm talking about the Castlevania series. Oh my god, I love these games so much. My favorite in the series is Aria of Sorrow, which is the Game Boy Advance, and then of course like Symphony of the Night, but there were a ton of really, really good classic Castlevania games even before this, with my favorite true retro game being Castlevania Bloodlines on the Genesis. You got 2 different characters, each with their own playstyle, John Morris and Eric Licard. Eric Licard is my personal favorite. He's got that badass spear that can pole vault him up to higher locations. Of course, John Morris can use his whip to swing across to different locations. And there's honestly 2 different branching paths depending on the character you choose as well. So that adds to replay value on top of everything else. This is a phenomenal game. I recommend playing the originals as well. A lot of people crap on the second one, Simon's Quest, but I really do love that one just as much as the first one and the third one. They're all so good. So Castlevania 1, 2, and 3. 3 is super difficult. It's the first appearance of Alucard. You get to recruit characters in the third one. There's a ton of different routes through the castle in the third game as well. So if you like branching paths and replayability, you definitely want to check out Castlevania 3 and Castlevania Bloodlines. I love those games so much. Super Castlevania 4 is right up there as well. That is probably a good entry point into the series. It's definitely the easiest Castlevania game in my opinion. It is a remake of the original Castlevania, but then expands upon it as well. So if you find the original too difficult, maybe check out Super Castlevania 4. You might be able to get through that one a lot easier and enjoy your time with it. Well, yeah, my personal favorite of the true classics would be Bloodlines. It takes place like during or around the time of World War I, and there's some crazy stuff going on. I absolutely love the cinematics in this one. I love the stage designs, and the boss fights are so good in this as well. But yeah, Castlevania, king of the horror-themed true retro games in my opinion. What are some of your favorite horror-themed retro games? It doesn't have to be limited to the NES through the Genesis and Super NES. Let me know in the comments below, what are some of your favorite horror-themed retro games? Have you played all the ones on my list? Have you played any of the ones on my list? And then what did you think of those bad boys? Let me know in the comments as well. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, subscribe, turn notifications to all so you don't miss the next one, and I'll see you guys in the next video.